What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I hope you guys have a wonderful time watching and wanted to say thank you for clicking on the video. And if you guys could just drop down real quick and hit that like and subscribe button. Subscribing to the channel helps so much. And right now, only 4.5% of viewers are subscribed. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful time watching. Peace out. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we are going over my own Accelgor list that's basically built around the Poisonous Ploy. But also a lot of different options in the deck that we can use to stall for time or target certain matchups. So let's just hop right into it. To start us off, we have a 3-3 line of the new Accelgor and Shelmet from Journey Together. For those who don't know, Accelgor has 100 HP. It is a Grass-type Pokemon, Stage 1. And for Poisonous Ploy, for 1 Grass and 1 Color, it deals 70 damage, and then it confuses and poisons your opponent's active. And then you switch it with 1 Pokemon on your bench. So it's a hit and run style deck, kind of like Flygon for those who remember that video. You deal the damage and then you switch it with something on your bench. So we have a handful of different things we can switch into with our Accelgor. One of which is going to be Klefki here. Another reason Klefki could be in here, most of the time we're going to be switching into a wall type Pokemon. But Klefki can be good in here if we're going first and we end up just wanting to shut down our opponent, because there's not much we can do going first, as in the original build of this, I did include the full poison package with Brute Bonnet and all of that, trying to get turn 1 donks, and I did have a lot of successful donks with that deck. So if you guys want to know the list, let me know and I'll throw it down in the comments for those who request it. But for this one, we're not really targeting the poison donks as much as we're looking to maintain solid gameplay throughout the whole thing, because I found with that deck is I was get the donks and then it would kind of die off. Regardless, though, we're talking about this deck, so Klefki is mostly here that we can stick it in our active spot and slow down our opponent. You know, if they're also playing Teal Mask Ogerpon, so many decks are right now, Mischievous Lock is going to be able to not allow them to use that at all, especially if we can get it in the active right away on our first turn. One of the other Pokemon we can switch into are Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, which is protected from Pokemon with abilities. Then there's Mimikyu, which is protected from Pokemon EX and V, which V Pokemon have rotated at this point, so it is just going to be those Pokemon EX. And we actually do have access to Ghost Eye, which for 1 Psychic and 1 Colorless lets us put 7 damage counters on your opponent's active. Then we have the Baby Pecharunt, which Toxic Subjugation is in here. As the ability, as long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, put 5 more damage counters on your opponent's poison Pokemon. So Accelgor basically hits it, poisons and confuses. You switch into Pecharunt, and now that poison that came from Accelgor is suddenly dealing 5 more damage counters, or 50 more damage. So really nice there. It doesn't wall us off from anything, but it allows us to hit bigger numbers that we typically wouldn't with that Accelgor, as well as take more knockouts in between turns, which shuts off things like our opponent's Fezandipitis or their unfair stamps, things like that. And then we also have a Maractus in here with Exploding Needles, which if this Pokemon is in the active spot and is knocked out by damage from an attack, put 6 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So kind of like a built-in Deluxe Bomb, sort of, except significantly less damage. And then Corner is also good to buy us some time. For 1 Colorless, it deals 20 damage, and your opponent's defending Pokemon cannot retreat, so very similar to the Saw Block. It's the same thing as Saw Block, basically. And then we got 1 copy of Lillie's Clefairy in here, because I found in playtesting that this deck was really lacking 1 big attacker. So I kind of mentally have related this to KLAWF in a way, just because of the original version. And so I was kind of looking back and forth between KLAWF decks and this deck, and like, what are some major differences that are sticking out. And one of them is we didn't have a big damage attacker, and we also had a bad matchup into Dragapult. So Lillie's Clefairy fixes both of those things, because Full Moon Rondo can hit for quite a bit of damage. You just fill up your bench, your opponent is probably sticking things on their bench as well, and it's really easy to charge this thing up and just get a swinging with it right away, as well as hitting those Dragapults for weakness is just super important. And then we got 1 copy of Fezandipiti in here for Flip the Script. We got Squawkabilly for Squawk and Seize on the first turn. 2 copies of Teal Mask Ogerpon to let us accelerate energy and draw cards, as well as Mirrored Leaf Shower is a viable attack. And then we have Latias EX in here to give all of our basic Pokemon free retreat. So everything except for our Accelgor will have free retreat because of this Latias. And that's going to make it so we can hit with a Accelgor, switch into something, and then we don't have to worry about retreating. Say we switch into, let's say we switch into Mimikyu. We don't have to worry about that one retreat cost. It's going to be covered by our Latias. And so that's the overall concept of the deck. So let's move on to the trainers to get a little bit deeper. We do have one copy of Bug Catching Set in here because we're playing Maractus, Teal Masks. We obviously have Accelgors, and then we have Grass Energy in here. So just the one Bug Catching Set. We're not going to overload with these. Just to sprinkle in a little bit of extra deck search sort of in there. And then our ace spec of choice is going to be the Precious Trolley to load that bench up with whatever we may need. Everything that we want to switch our Accelgor into, and any Teal Masks that we need, or Latias, whatever we might need. Precious Trolley is just going to fill our bench for us. And we got 4 copies of Energy Switch in here, which lets us move a basic energy from one of our Pokemon to another. So the idea there is we're going to be using Teal Dance, getting energy in play, and then we can attach return and E-switch. So we can attach return to our Lillie's Clefairy and then use an energy switch just to get it Full Moon Rondo online instantly like that. We can do the same with a Accelgor. We energy switch onto it, attach to it. Just sort of that concept of being able to get an attacker online right away is really, really nice. So we do have 4 copies of that energy switch. Then we got 1 copy of Technical Machine Devolution in here. Because we're going to be spreading some poison counters out with the Accelgor and Pecharunt combo. And sometimes our opponent is going to be moving around their board state a lot and hopefully getting what would be evolution Pokemon or maybe rare candied Pokemon that have a bunch of damage on them. We can hit them with a Devo and hopefully take multiple prize cards in one turn, as well as making it a really tough time for our opponent, especially if they go heavy on rare candies, which so many decks have been lately, especially Mamoswine has popped up. So Devo is going to be quite powerful going into the new meta, I feel. Then we got 3 copies of Nest Ball, 2 copies of Perilous Jungle, so that poison is going to deal even more damage, as well as act as a stadium bump. 2 copies of Boss's Orders, 2 copies of Area 0, so we can get a nice big bench, get everything in play. 2 copies of Iono, 3 copies of Arven, 1 copy of Professor Turo's Scenario. Most of the time this is used to just get our Squawk out of play once it's already been there, but it can obviously be used for different Pokemon in different situations. 1 copy of Counter Gain, 1 copy of Redeemable Ticket. This is because obviously we have many one-offs in this deck, and if we need a specific one and it's in the prize cards, we can use that Redeemable Ticket to make sure we can pull it out of said prize cards. So this is really one of the only way of interacting with our prize cards now that we've hit rotation. There is Daisy's Help, but obviously that's not the best. Redeemable Ticket is much better. Then we got 2 copies of Super Rod for recovery. So just getting back whatever Pokemon get knocked out. Our Pechtrons are expected to go down. They're just going to kind of do some extra poison damage. Mimikyu's very easy to take care of if your opponent has some solution to them. Just a handful of different things, as well as getting some energy back. So 2 copies of those Super Rods for recovery. Then we got 2 copies of Buddy-Buddy Poffin, 2 copies of Ultra Ball, 1 switch, because even though we are playing that Latias, sometimes it's in our prizes, or we can't get it into play, or something along those lines, and we just need to move around our board a little bit. So we do have 1 copy of Switch in here. Then we got 2 copies of Earthen Vessel, and 1 Lillie's Pearl for our Lillie's Clefairy, making it only 1 prize card if it is knocked out by damage from an attack. So it's got to fit that specific criteria, but with 190 HP, if it's in our active spot, it's probably going to be going down to damage from an attack. And that's it for the trainers. So as for energy, we have 2 copies of Jet Energy, 5 copies of Grass, and 2 copies of Psychic. The Psychic is obviously in here for that Lillie's Clefairy Full Moon Rondo, as well as gives us Ghost Eye access. The 5 grasses in here for our Teal Mask Ogerpons, as well as our energy switches and just playing it to our Poisonous Ploy. And then the 2 Jet Energies, well, like I said, yes, we do have free retreat from Latias when we can get it into play. We're going to be able to just energy switch from a Teal Mask onto an Accelgor and play the Jet Energy. That's also going to take care of opposing Saw blocks and anyone else that might be playing Maractus against us. And that's the 60. So like I said, I did prefer this one. I do have another 60 that's more poison focused, and it does slow down a little bit later in the game. It doesn't really have a big attacker like I put in here with the Lillie's Clefairy, and it's a much more control focused deck. But if you guys would like to see that, just let me know in the comments and I will send you guys that 60. So let's hop on over to the playtests now. All right, going ahead, jumping into our playtest here for our Accelgor kind of wall control-esque deck. You know, we got the poison in there and whatnot. We are going to prefer going first, because that's going to give us a chance to stick our Klefki in the active spot, as well as start evolving into our Accelgors. But you could go second. The only thing with going second is, realistically, the only threat that you're pushing there is getting a turn 1 attack of some kind. My opponent's going first. They got metal type sleeves. I'm just going to go on a whim and bank they're not playing the poison package. There it is, Hop Zacian. Probably our worst matchup. So we have pretty good answers and ways to play around every other deck. But Hop Zacian, between the resistance of our attackers and stuff like that, can really just do a number on us. And it is going to be our Chaladon Zacian. So this Mimikyu is going to have to be our friend, but unfortunately it is weak to Duraludon, as well as that Cramorant is going to have a heyday. So yeah, we don't have the best matchup into Zacian, or really any Hops deck. And we find a Super Rod. Not much going on here. Okay. Well, okay, let's just take a look here. Got the Accelgors, one Teal Mask. Was it 100? Yeah, I wouldn't be able to go that route. I was just kind of thinking, would I get knockout with Lillie's Clefairy? But no, I would be short even if I filled my bench completely. So I'm probably even just grabbing Squawk here, I think, just based off the hand. Cornerstone doesn't do a ton for us, but it does enough. Does that make sense? This Ultra Ball, probably grabbing with Latias. Or do we want to try and guarantee something? I think I'm actually going to grab our Shelmet here. Yeah, because we can even leave this Mimikyu in the active spot. We're not too concerned about getting it out too quickly here. And we can throw a Counter Gain on that Shelmet. Use a Super Rod. Do we Iono first or Squawk? I think we Iono first. Because we just have... I mean, I don't know. Is that correct? Would that be correct? And we're not even close to getting the Lillie's Clefairy online anyway. We haven't seen any Teal Mask or Energy Switches. So that was never an option. Guess we can drop in. I almost don't want to Squawk at this point. But I think I will. We need to save bench spaces for anything. We got Clefairy, we got Pech. I think we're actually just gonna get rid of the Clefairy in this situation. We're gonna end up squawking, so we can Vessel now. Just grab one, so we can attach it to a Shelmet here. We'll attach it to that one, and then we'll go ahead and Squawk and Seize. Alright, Devo's not doing a ton for us. Let's grab ourselves a Teal Mask here. Get a wide bench. And then go Earthen Vessel away Poffin. Double Grass. Yeah, see what we can draw into here. Switch and Devo. Nothing's going on there, so we're just gonna pass it on back. So we got a Mimikyu in the active spot. Obviously, my opponent is gonna start charging up for their Hop Zacian, and they're gonna switch into their Duraludon here, because obviously Hammer In is gonna be dealing double damage after weakness. You do get Iono, that's fine. The hand wasn't too much. Into a Accelgor and some energy switches, so pretty solid results. Oof, that's a mistake. Hop's Choice Band going on the Duraludon, unless no, they would. Why didn't they put it on the Hop Zacian? I was thinking because they wanted to get rid of their hand in some way, like a research, but that obviously was not it. I think they forgot it has to be a Hops Pokemon. Alright, energy. We got double energy switch in hand, so we can go ahead and Teal Dance, right? Let's just pop in here. What are we saving bench spaces for? We got Maractus, Latias, what, Cornerstone? Cornerstone's hit or miss. So I think we're going to fail that. Catching set, grab Maractus. Could go into a Maractus lock. Potentially. Turo boss. Could boss Maractus lock their Snorlax while we set up our Accelgors. Or where are we at? Actually, I think it would be better to do this. We can still go for a Maractus lock, but not this turn. And we are going to play it to the bench in case Stadium gets bumped. We can get rid of our Squawk. We can Turo up our Mimikyu here, going into a Accelgor. And then we will re-bench the Mimikyu. And we'll do an early E-switch in case we get Iono onto that Maractus. Poisonous Ploy, which unfortunately because of weakness isn't going to do a whole ton. But we are going to go into our Pecharunt here. So now coming back towards us, that Duraludon is going to go down to Poison, letting us take the first prize of the set. Now we do have to try and get our hands. They do go ahead and evolve into our Chaladon. So unfortunately, Evolution does clear status effects. So our Chaladon, or our Duraludon is no longer poisoned and obviously gets plus 200 HP. So needless to say, this Pecharunt is not going to stay up. Now it begs the question, we only have a boss's orders in hand. What's the likelihood that we're able to retreat? Did that poison not clear when it evolved? Interesting. Okay. So we could go and try and Maractus lock. No. Actually, I think we will. I think we're going to go for the Maractus lock on Snorlax. We find Arven. Yeah. We don't have much going on in the hand right now, and we kind of want to get a better board state. That's really interesting why that didn't clear the status effect. Or did it? Did it take damage going back into... No, it didn't take the damage, but it still said it was poisoned. That's interesting. Because, yeah, it had taken 100 damage, and then it attacked back into us. Weird. Okay, we're going to go ahead. Arven here. We could review... No more search. Looks like our trolley is prized. I would have liked to get Latias out so we can start maneuvering our board a little easier. We switch. I mean, yeah, we're just kind of thinning out the Devo because we're not really going to be using that ever, I don't think. Unless we go for a one prize knockout at some point. But I think this is going to be the play, just holding the Snorlax lock here. Right? Take a look. Does have a 4 retreat cost. Could switch into a Accelgor, speed things up. But we don't really want to speed things up. We're trying to kind of catch back up and reestablish here. Well, we're not established. I just want to be in a more comfortable board state. Now they could go Choice Band Energy and just Dynamic Press. That would suck. But they don't have either of those cards in hand, so. Exchange Ticket. Well, we know Latias is in deck, and that's what we're really looking for, so I don't think we are grabbing that. We have 110 health left. So we are just going to keep on holding that corner here. Really getting to see the Maractus put in some work this game. Really the first time I've been able to do that. Super Rod. Could grab back, like, probably just Petch, right? Maybe Petch Accelgor. We'll hold on to it for now. Because we don't need either of those things. We don't have no way to search them out necessarily. And so when something else goes down, we'll be able to use that Super Rod to find other things. A Jacques here, probably just thinning out to our Chaladons. Whoa. Melmetal. Attack does 3 more damage for each hazard opponent once or done. Interesting. 300 HP stage 2. Or stage 1. Very unique. And we're just going to keep on cornering. Because they weren't doing anything with those cards that they had in hand. Obviously, I also grabbed the double, which could cause us some issues, but since they have themselves bench locked right now, we don't have to worry about it. I'm kind of curious, how should I approach this? Probably just using a Accelgor into Mimikyu is going to be the best bet. Yeah. Another thing I'm afraid about is them having Boss in hand. So obviously, if they just Boss in a Accelgor, that would be less than ideal. So we do only get one more turn of corner here on this particular Snorlax. They do Stadium Bump, which since we're actually one short, we don't get to bump the Squawk here. And they pass it on back. So here's where we make a bit of a decision. Do we want to go wide again? Or do we want to go Perilous Jungle? I don't think Jungle makes any... Actually, Jungle does make a difference. Because if we go into Petch... Yeah, so we'll Super Rod back Pecharunt here. And 14 cards left in deck. Yeah, we'll get a Accelgor as well. So the thought process here is, if you go Poisonous Ploy into Pecharunt, that's 100 damage. With Perilous Jungle, it's 120. That's going to be getting rid of that Hops Cramorant for us as the biggest deal, sort of. So we'll go down to 5 prize cards only. That's fine. Oh, you know what? I should have attached Jet Energy to Shelmet. We'll just attach a Psychic here. Just so we have the attachment for turn down. Do we want to be... That won't be attacking. That isn't affected by Postwick. I think we are going to go wide again, mainly to get that Postwick gone. And we don't need the Perilous Jungle yet. Going to Mimikyu here. because since we're only taking one prize card, Cramorant is still offline. There's that trolley. So they don't have any way to deal damage to our Mimikyu right now. We'll see if that changes. And since they now know that we have Devo, there's that. So it did 300 HP. Did it resist grass? I don't remember. My guess is it would. I want to see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here. Oh no, that's double. So it does also resist grass, which is a little annoying. Here we can go trolley. Grab ourselves Pech, Latias. I don't think we are grabbing Cornerstone here. I think we're just gonna grab those two for now. Then what are we doing? We're gonna end up using Accelgor Pecharunt for sure. I think what I'm gonna do, just so we have the energy kind of spread out, is E-switch the grass over there, then jet the active, because then our attachment for turn isn't wasted. And then we'll go jungle, getting rid of our Squawk. And what else are we getting rid of here? Probably our Teal Mask at this point, because we have quite a bit of our grass in play already. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me, but I think we're going to get rid of Squawk, Teal Mask. Then we'll go Poisonous Ploy. This time going into Pecharunt for the knockout from Poison. Actually, oh, I think Poisonous Ploy, they do just go ahead and scoop there. I think Poisonous Ploy plus, oh yeah, it totally does. 7 plus 6, yeah. So we don't even need the Perilous Jungle in order to take knockout on Cramorant like that. But that's like arguably our worst matchup there. That obviously they had a pretty tough time working around like working around our Mimikyu and stuff, but I mean, a win's a win. We ended up playing it pretty well. 17 minutes. I think I am going to cut the video short there. Not a super long one tonight, but it's already getting pretty late. So I'll go ahead and actually, yeah, we'll quickly go over this first rendition of the list that has the poison package. So obviously you have the Latias, you have the Maractus, you got Squawk. Then you have 2 copies of Brute Bonnet, 3 Teal Masks, 2 Pech, 1 Mimikyu, 1 Fez, a 2-2 line of Accelgor, 1 Cornerstone, 1 Klefki, and then we got a Monkey Dorian here as well. For the trainers, we got 1 Bug Catching Set, Trolley, 1 Devo, only 2 Energy Switch because we're not really looking to power up any big attacker quickly. And the Energy Switches aren't as big of a deal in this particular list because you're not actually attacking very often. I found you're actually using the poison package and manipulating your opponent's board state more so than you are attacking, which a bit of an interesting gimmick of the deck almost. And then you have 3 Perilous Jungle, really want to be able to get into those. 1 Nest Ball, 2 Ancient Capsules, 2 Boss, 1 Area 0, 3 Iono, 3 Arven, 1 Turo, 1 Counter Gain, 1 Redeemable Ticket, 2 Super Rods, 1 Cold Rest, 2 Buddy-Buddy Poffin, 2 Ultra Ball, 1 Switch, and 1 Vessel. And then for energy, it's going to be 2 Jet, 6 Grass, 1 Darkness. So this one you definitely want to go first. And the goal is, obviously there's a little more heavy on like the Switch type cards, and you got more capsules, you got more Perilous Jungles. The goal of this deck is to donk your opponents. So you go first. Hopefully you're using get Pecharunt in your active spot, Brute Bonnet. Your opponents only put down 1 low HP Pokemon to the active spot, and just like that you can win the game. So as long as I believe it's 80 HP or less, yeah, 80 HP or less, you can win the game without your opponent ever drawing a card. So definitely an interesting list. Would totally give it a try. As for this one, I think the things that jump out to me right away through playing it is I might add one more fighting, though I'm not totally sure. And yeah, I'm not really sure. So you guys just let me know in the comments what kind of changes you would make to this deck. And I hope you all had a wonderful time watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and have a wonderful day.